Hey guys, it's Jalen. Welcome back. I'm here today to share with you my update for my Palette Love series. This is a series where I try to rotate through my eyeshadow palette collection because it's very, very large. And I skipped July because in June, and I knew I was going to skip July. In June, I brought in a bunch of palettes. At least that's what I remember. I should probably go back and watch that video, but I'm pretty sure that's what I did. So I had 8 palettes that I had rolled in June that I worked on in June and July. So let me share with you what those palettes were. Now, typically for this series, I randomly roll 4-ish palettes. Sometimes it's 5, depending on the size of the palettes that are randomly chosen for me. And then I roll in 1 palette that I pick because I want to work on it. So in June, I brought in a bunch of extras that both randomly and that I picked. Hopefully that makes sense. So let me share with you the palettes that were randomly chosen for me. The first one is the Urban Decay KRISTEN LEANNE palette. This palette was fine. It's really not super exciting, although I will tell you these shades, these blue shades are really beautiful. That purple is really lackluster, but I did use, it's not like I used this palette by itself. I used targeted shades here and there. So I did use the blues, the purple, and I think I used Starfire too, or Spitfire, excuse me. But this purple is really, really bad. I used it in the outer corner part of my lid. And it worked fine for that. I think it'd be better as almost like a outer corner crease shade. And I feel like I used it that way a time as well. But yeah, really, I mean, it's not a palette that I'm like, I need to get rid of it because the blues were really nice. And, you know, this Corona shade is also really pretty. I just didn't use it because I have other shades that I'm working on very similar to this, but I really wouldn't use I may use the black here and there. I would never pan it. I would not use this orange shade. I don't remember. I think I may have used Lime Time. This is a shade that I would also work on because I'm getting into the greens. So it's a pretty shade. But yeah, I think Stay Gold, I don't really care about. This shade in the middle, I don't really care about. And this orange and the black. But the rest I would pan. So it's not going anywhere. The next one that I'm going to share with you is the Urban Decay Electric palette. And this is the original. This is really lovely. I really enjoyed these blues. They're really nice. The pink and purple were really nice. This magenta shade. I did not use the green, or I didn't use any of the greens actually. So I didn't use this one and I didn't use these two. Not for any particular reason. I just didn't have a green look to go with it. But I mean, this shade here is beautiful. This pink. It's so pretty. But I did enjoy the looks I created with this. So again, it was not a palette that I used on its own, but I definitely used these shades in specific looks. So anyway, that's not going anywhere. The next palette that was randomly chosen for me was by Lancome. It's the Eye Art Artists palette. So it's this one here. This is gorgeous. Beautiful. I really loved playing with this. I think I used most shades in here. I would say I didn't use the lighter shades on this end, and I don't think I used this brown or this shade here, but I want to say I used everything else, and it was really, really pretty. It's just a romantic palette. It's very, very nice. I really love it. Not going anywhere. And I'll just swatch a couple of shades. Well, my hand is still wet, but those are just a few of the shades in here. It's really nice. Anyway, not going anywhere. All right, the next palette that was I think this was randomly chosen for me. Yeah, the Charlotte Tilbury Stars in Your Eyes palette. So this is what this one looks like. And this one, it's really nice. I don't think the trios jive for me because I like to poke around in this palette kind of like all over the place. But I mean, there's some really pretty shadows in here. Like, surprisingly, I don't think I used too many of these purples just because I have other shades that I was working on in projects that were similar. But let me give you a swatch of some of these. Okay, really bad swatches. But there we go. So these are some of the shimmers and there are some of the mattes. Really lovely. Nice, easy, everyday, work appropriate neutral palette. It's kind of how I see it. It's really pretty. So that one's not going anywhere. None of these are going anywhere. I just stopped saying that. And I want to say, honestly, I did not go back and look at my... Oh, I know which one. I was like, I didn't go back to look to see which ones I brought in. But I'm pretty sure this one was randomly chosen for me. This is the Viseart Paris Edit palette. And this is gorgeous. It was either this one or the next one that was randomly chosen. I honestly can't remember. And I'm too lazy to go back and look. This is really pretty. I took the next 3 with me traveling and to Turkey. And I enjoyed using all of them. They were really nice to play with. This one has some really great staple shades. Like this shade here is beautiful. This shade here is beautiful. Like in terms of mattes, this one's a great outer corner deepening shade. I just think it's such a fun palette to play with. Even this like light pale lavender-y pinky shade was really lovely to work with. I mean, everything in here was really pretty. Now, Viseart mattes, they are very they're buildable. So you have to kind of think of them as buildable shadows versus super pigmented shadows. And that's why I like them. But there's just a couple of those shades. So pretty. Really enjoyed playing with it. Lovely palette. And a great travel palette too. Now this one I'm fairly confident I chose, well, in the next 2. So I have another Viseart palette. This is the Rosé Edit. I'm pretty sure I pulled this in because it has some brighter pops of color. So this shade here I used quite a bit when I traveled. Like it was just a great shadow to amp up an eye look. Now I didn't use all the shades in here or in any of these palettes really, because my goal is really just to play around in these palettes in this project. So it's not like no pan left behind or anything like that. I just really want to rotate through my collection because there are some palettes that I've never even used. Lots of them I've never used. So that's the goal, is just to get my brushes in here and play around. So there are some of the shots. I mean, it's so pretty. It's great for summer. It was a great travel palette. I really love this one. Love it. And then the last palette that I pulled in, and this was again a palette that I chose, was by Huda Beauty. And this is the Nude Light palette. Now, I pulled these last 2 in because they were smaller size and I wanted to be able to throw them in my travel bag. This is gorgeous. I love this palette. Love it. Like, these mattes are this matte here is stunning. I think I use this one the most. You know, these are both really nice too, but the shimmers are gorgeous. I kind of fell in love with this while traveling. It's so pretty. It's gorgeous. There are the shimmers there. I kind of did a crummy job swatching again, but this lavender matte shade, I freaking love this shade so much. I'll swatch a couple of these mattes. Okay, there are 4 of the mattes from here down. This shade is lovely in the crease. Love it. Not going anywhere. There was one other palette that I worked on, but it was hiding. I also used this Tartelette Juicy palette. I don't know. It was hiding under my regular palette. Anyway, here we go. I love this palette. I love the color story in here. I mostly use like these two rows, but I did dabble in these two a little bit here and there. This one did not travel with me, but it's such a pretty palette. I love the mattes in here. They're so nice. There's just some of the shadows swatched. It's a really nice palette to play with. So anyway, yeah, I don't know why this one was hiding, so sorry I didn't do a more in-depth review on this. So yeah, this was part of the, 1, 2, 3, 4, 8 palettes that I was working on. So I'm going to insert this somewhere in the video. So those were the palettes that I played around with over the last couple of months, and I'm super glad to have been able to, see what these palettes were all about, get some use on them, and now they are rolling out of this project, and I'm going to select new palettes for the month of August. Let me grab my iPad and we will select some new palettes. Okay, so we're going to select 4 random palettes first, and depending on how big the palettes are, I may pull in a 5th one, but let's go ahead and see what we get. ColourPop Fine Feathered. We don't get a lot of ColourPop, even though I have a ton of ColourPop palettes. I'm so excited to get a ColourPop palette. Okay. Fine Feathered. Ooh, BH Cosmetics Nightshade. That is a fun purple palette. And a newer one to my collection. That's 2. Ooh, the MAC Princess Jasmine Shadow. Okay, that's 3. 4, okay, another ColourPop. You're a Cutie. Okay, that's 4, right? Now, I think I'm going to go ahead and pick one more because these are all somewhat smaller palettes. So let me get back to full screen and we'll pick one more. Let's see what it is. Bye Bye Birdie. Okay, by ColourPop. All right, let me go grab these palettes and I will be right back. Okay, I am back with my palettes and I'm going to go in the order that they were selected. The first one we have is ColourPop Fine Feathered. This is a 9-pan palette. It's gorgeous. Oh my gosh, I love palettes like this. Totally my jam in terms of color story. I don't think I, in the past, have swatched the entire palette, but I'm going to. Why not? Maybe I have. It's been a while since I've done this video. Oh my gosh. This is beautiful. Oh, I cannot wait to play with that. If I can talk. So yeah, that is Fine Feathered. Okay, the next palette we have is by BH Cosmetics, and it's the Nightshade palette. Poison Shock. Nightshade Poison Shock. And it's another 9-pan palette. Oh my gosh. Yes, please. Oh my goodness. This shade here looks like electric. Oh, it's gorgeous. It's beautiful. So yeah, BH Cosmetics Nightshade. So exciting. Next up, we have from MAC the Aladdin Princess Jasmine palette. And this has also 9 pans. Now, this one's probably going to be a little bit more muted. I have hit pan in one of these, as you can tell. But did I use the rest of the palette? Nope. Okay, here is the MAC Princess Jasmine palette. This looked like a black, but it's more of a blackened burgundy brown shade. But yeah, I think it's, again, one of those nice romantic palettes. There's 3 mattes in here, and I feel like this would be a little bit challenging to try to blend out with the other 2 mattes. Now, this one I think you can probably use similar to a matte. It's more of a satin shade. So there's this one here. Yeah, it has some shimmer to it, but I think you can really use it as a matte. So 1, 2, 3, 4. Anyway, it's very lovely. Yay! I'm glad to pull in a palette that I've hit pan on, but did not use otherwise. Now the next two, I kind of forgot what they look like. So I'm excited to open these up. I did not open them up while I was pulling them out of my collection. From ColourPop, I have the You're a Cutie palette. This has 12 shades. Oh, pretty. So let's swatch these. Okay, here are the swatches for the You're a Cutie palette. Now, there's a couple, like this one here looks a little sketchy in terms of, like, it looks pretty patchy. So we'll see how that works. Now, and then these two here in the middle are more satin shades. There was another, couple of the mattes. I don't know how well they'll perform, like this one, which is that lavender shade here. We'll see how that performs. But I think ColourPop can have some like buildable mattes, which I like. I like buildable mattes. Anyway, that's the palette. It's a really pretty color story. So we'll see how this ends up working out. The last palette that was randomly chosen for me was ColourPop Bye Bye Birdie. We got 3 ColourPop palettes this month. This is a really pretty, I really love this packaging. It's lovely. And here is what the inside looks like. Now I will not use this glitter. There's actually 2 glitters in here. This one and this one. I don't think I'll use either. That Amuse Me one is really pretty though. I ain't gonna lie. But let me go ahead and swatch these. Okay, there's the palette. I went ahead and did the glitters because I couldn't help myself. But yeah, I cannot use those on my eyes. But I think this shade and this shade are both the Super Shock formula because they've got that same texture. So this one and this one. Yeah, they definitely have that Super Shock texture. And I think they would do better over a wet tacky base. Okay, those are those same 2 shadows swatched over a wet base, so not tacky but wet, compared to on dry skin. So definitely more impactful over a like tacky or wet base. But yeah, this palette is pretty. This shade is beautiful. This shade is, I mean, this shade. Oh, the mattes look really nice. So we'll see. Now for the palette that I chose. Now this is a recent palette to my collection, and I have seen my friend Deb pan this recently. Like, I think she's doing it using it 5 times or no pan left behind or something. But I am rolling in this Odin's Eye and Angelica Gila palette. I'm excited about this one. This one has some really beautiful greens. Look at this artwork. Oh my gosh. So here is this palette. It's normally like this. Oh my gosh, cannot wait. Okay, let me swatch these. Okay, here we go. Oh, it's so pretty. This shade down here kind of blew me away. I mean, there's so many here. Look at this shade. It's so pretty. I mean, there are a couple of shades in here that I probably won't use, or I may... If I do, it's a stretch for me, which is these yellows and this like really interesting grungy like gray green. The rest of these I'm comfortable with, but those like these 3 mattes are a little bit challenging for me in general, but I'm going to try to use them. We'll see what happens. So anyway, that is my update for Palette Love. I am so excited to play around with new palettes. I've had the same palettes in for 2 months, and I really mostly got through using them before I even left for my trip to Spain. So I'm excited to have some new things to play around with. So anyway, that is going to be it for today. Thank you guys so much for watching. Hopefully you're doing well and staying safe. Please hit that subscribe button, and I will see y'all next time. Bye! So those are the palettes that I have played around with over the last... No, that's not right. Okay, I am back with my palettes. So I'm going to start with the... It's more of like a satin. Satin! Okay, bye!